Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for the first Premier League preview in what feels like a lifetime. Honestly, how long has it been? Like 4 weeks or whatever? Like the first Premier League game under a new manager who was literally appointed 22 days ago. Like, this is crazy. But thankfully, finally, we're back properly talking about some actual proper football, not just some waffle left, right, centre. Even though there is a little bit of waffle that we do need to cover today, secret medicals and all sorts of madness, Chelsea or Todd Bowley trying to buy Lyon in France. Like, what the flip? Like, how is that a thing? But yeah, there's a lot to get through today. But as you can see, it's only two people and will actually remain a two people. Just a lot of people are very busy today, so didn't find anybody else that was available, quite frankly. But Pice, my guy, of course, has joined us, and we need him because there's, like I say, a lot to get through, and also, like I say, a lot of interesting things to discuss as well. Like, of course, we've seen one game on a Graham Potter in the Champions League, but that was 3-4 days into his reign. Now, of course, although it was the international break, and that obviously took a lot of players away, there's still been a lot more time for Graham Potter to take a look at the actual squad he's got now. Because, mind you, when we appointed him, he was, of course, Brighton manager until that day, right? So unless he, kind of delved into the matter of becoming Chelsea manager much earlier than the public was aware of, he obviously needed some time to really take a look at the in-depth qualities, weaknesses, strengths, whatever attributes of all of our players. So even if they're not here, I think now 3 weeks on, or 3.5 weeks on since the Salzburg game, I think we could see different things. I'm not saying we're going to see a different formation and all those things, but we need to, there's a good chance we'll see a bit more. And it's going to be very interesting to discuss what really to expect. Are we going to see a different formation? Like we touched on the other day in the stream, when we played a behind closed doors friendly against Brighton, we played a back four. Against Salzburg, we played a back three. So what to expect tomorrow? Selection, like did some of the players that were, of course, not on international duty, like a Loftus-Cheek, obviously Chukwuemeka is now ill anyway, and the same goes for Kukurea, so no real benefit for them to not going into international duty in that sense. But like I say, a Loftus-Cheek and a few others that obviously stuck around and didn't go on international duty, did they manage to, well, take advantage of that, I guess, and fight their way into the team while the others obviously weren't there and they just impressed Potter in training? That could be the case. That's a lot to get through. But Pice, I think the first thing we should start with is let's recap a little bit from what we were talking about on Wednesday, just to add to that, because obviously it came out not long after we basically finished that stream. Todd Bowley's taking this whole buying more clubs very seriously, isn't he? Because we were turned down by Santos in Brazil, which is unfortunate, but still shows the intent is there right now and not in like 6 months or a year. The intent is there right now. And according to some reports, now you will know better than I will how reliable that report was, but apparently we also had an offer to buy Lyon rejected. And you just told me, I didn't even know that until you just told me that off air, that they actually agreed with some other American investors earlier in the summer or whatever to be sold to them, or at least part sold to them. But like Lyon is huge. Like obviously we're also apparently in talks with, I forget their name, but the club in the Portuguese league, which is currently fourth actually, which is interesting. They're still not too big of a club because they have like 4 or 5 big clubs in Portugal, and then all the other ones are really small, even though sometimes they cause a bit of an upset in their leagues. But yeah, it's kind of kicking off. But what do you think about it and what you know about it, especially the Lyon bit? Like, I mean, if it worked, kind of great. But the fact that we even tried, it's almost shocking to me. Not shocking necessarily in a negative way, except potentially if there was never a chance that we were going to get it, maybe it's just a bit silly then. But in general, the fact that we're trying to go that big is very almost impressive to me. A little bit scary, because I'm like, I hope you're not biting off more than you can chew here, but still impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much was actually in the report in terms of like how serious they were, because obviously, as I did say, the article said it was by Ed Aarons, who's from Guardian. He's pretty decently reliable, so I definitely took some notice of it. And also he said that obviously we'd been turned down by Santos, and Nizar actually came out, I think, pretty much like 20 minutes later with like a whole detailed report, and said Santos as well. So, but yeah, in terms of the Leon thing, yeah, it's an interesting one, because he said it was a late bid this month, so in September, but they'd already agreed a deal with John Textor, who's an American businessman who has links with, I think it's Crystal Palace. I think he might own some of them. He owns a couple of other clubs, I think. So I mean, kind of like Jim Ratcliffe club vibes, kind of. Leon had this kind of deal already done. Kind of Chelsea had this deal already kind of 90% done with Bowley, and then a late bidder came in. In our case, it was Jim Ratcliffe, and in Leon's case, it was Todd Bowley. So I didn't really, I mean, I took the report seriously. I just don't know whether it was more like, kind of like a cheeky late bid. They don't really know. Like, we don't know the details weren't enclosed, is what I'm trying to say, of how much the bid was. Like, was it actually like really, really serious? And because I just think with how they operated in buying Chelsea, they were there from the very, very start. And it's very unlikely, especially with a massive club like Leon, that you can just swoop in and go, okay, there you go. The other investors now out, unless it was an absurd amount of money. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Maybe more details are being closed in the future, but right now that's all we go off. But yeah, I definitely do believe the report was reliable.
Absolutely, and I think Cranky Pants here makes a very relevant comment here. Isn't there some kind of UEFA rule that says you can't own 2 or more teams in a tournament? Don't remember if it's true. Now, I still to this day don't know how Red Bull get around that, because that is a rule. And obviously, when Stephen Pagliuca was one of the interested candidates in buying the club from Roman Abramovich, he obviously is majority owner at Atalanta Bergamo, right? And it was said that if he were to get involved, he would probably need to put or get rid of at least some of the shares that he has in Atalanta to be allowed to do that. Now, that's why I'm very intrigued by the Leon thing, because, like, I mean, Shoham, sorry if I butchered your name, but he says Portimonense. That's how I'm going to try to pronounce it, but I probably butchered it real bad. That's the Portuguese club we're apparently interested in. Now, okay, they're currently 4th, but they're not exactly usually high enough up in UEFA club competitions that would be an issue with Chelsea. But Leon playing the Champions League reasonably regularly. I swear, weren't they in the quarterfinals like a year or two ago? Remember when they beat like Juve in around the 16? So how that is possible, I'm not sure. And I mean, Pies, I'm not sure if you know either, but the thing that intrigues me about that, are we trying to buy all of these clubs like completely? You know how Chelsea, obviously, they own the whole club. Now, I know it's shared within their own consortium in terms of who owns how much and stuff. But in general, it's one consortium that owns the whole thing. While a lot of other clubs in world football are, of course, owned by shareholders, right? And someone has 10%, 30%, maybe some are 51% or 49%, right? But has anything been said as to how much of each of those clubs Chelsea are trying to buy? Because buying the whole club and getting full ownership like they do have of Chelsea, I feel like would be much more difficult to achieve, especially of clubs the size of Lyon, right? But if you're talking like by a 30% share, that's obviously a much easier thing to do. And maybe a less than 50% share would also then find a way around the UEFA rule. Now, clearly Red Bull aren't finding that way, because, I mean, clearly all of it is owned by Red Bull. But have you heard anything about that? Because, like I say, this rule is clearly a thing. Everyone was talking about it when the Pagliuca thing was happening. So then there needs to be some sort of way to get around it. Is that potentially just not buying the whole thing, but say a percentage of the club? Do you know any of that? Or what? Well, if you don't know, what's your logic behind it?
I mean, someone did tell me that Tom Glick, who is obviously the president of business, that's his title at Chelsea, worked with John Textor, who bought Leon or is in the process of buying Leon. Deal has been agreed. So I thought maybe what you just said there might make logical sense in terms of like maybe Chelsea could own like a portion of Leon, and John Textor would be happy for us to send players there. But I just think, especially with big businessmen, I feel like that might, if it's like a big club, there might be disagreements there. And I feel like in our case, Todd Bowley is trying to buy like a whole club. And Clearlet Capital, of course. I keep forgetting them, but they're the guys with the serious money. So, not to say Bowley isn't, he's a billionaire, but Clearlake are just huge. So, yeah,
I mean, clearly like shit on Abramovich if they wanted to, like in terms of money. They have crazy money. It's just not really all fully theirs. That's why it's a bit weird.
No, yeah, it's not fully theirs, but they still have a lot of money. So, yeah, I think we are trying to buy a whole club. That's what I see from all the reports, and I think even in the conference, I think the Salt conference that Bowley did, I think he said like he wants to have control over these players' future. So if you have a shareholder's position, it doesn't give you full control. So I do think we'll end up.
I guess it depends on how the shareholders are split up, right? Because
you're
true. Correct.
If we own the majority,
exactly. If someone owns 51 and we own only 30, then we don't have enough controlling power. But if we own 30 and then someone else owns 25 and someone else owns 25 and someone else owns 15, then even though we don't have a majority, we still have the biggest stake. So then I guess you are controlling again. Do you know what I mean with that?
Yeah, I feel like you'd still need like everyone to align with the vision of where the club wants to go.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like I just can't see shareholders being happy for the majority shareholder just to put Chelsea's youngsters into said club if it's a bigger club.
Yeah.
And the buys that Chelsea buy, maybe like a Slanina or something, just to go back to Chelsea. Like that's the whole aim of this, right? They wanna find gems, develop them, then put them into Chelsea's first team. So I just feel like that would be way more suitable by buying a lower league club like Man City have done. Not even a lower league, just like a lower club in a top league that can develop and grow over the years. I guess.
Absolutely. So the Portuguese one makes a lot of sense to me. Number one, there's a lot of talent out there. Obviously, Portugal, with being a former, well, Brazil being a former colony of Portugal and therefore having that language link, even if we don't get a Brazilian club, having a Portuguese club will already make a link to Brazilian players a lot easier, right? That's why so many Brazilian players come to Europe through Portugal, and a lot of them, they are Brazilian born and then they end up being Portuguese. Like I'm pretty sure Deco is actually Brazilian born, but obviously represented Portugal all his life in terms of as a professional footballer. So it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. And like you say, exactly what we just discussed is why I was so confused about the whole Lyon thing. Because, like you say, would they be happy with just taking our feeder players? Because one thing's for sure, I cannot imagine their fan base being happy about it. Now, if we give them players so good that are maybe quite not good enough for us, like let me think of an example. Like Lyon have good players, but a lot of their players are not good enough to play for Chelsea. But if we still help them get those players on the cheap, essentially, it can still be a benefit to them, I suppose. And only the very, very good ones, they just need to then give us on very cheap compared to how they would sell them to us if it were normal, like a business negotiation, right? Rather than being owned by the same people. But I guess they could still, get a benefit out of it if the ones that are not quite good enough for Chelsea, they then stay at a club like Lyon. Do you know what I mean? Like, even a club like Dortmund, the really good ones like an Erling Haaland, like an Aubameyang, like a Lewandowski, they end up leaving. But the ones that are not quite as good, they end up staying for a longer time. So maybe it could be something like that, obviously, and then just go to us rather than the way Dortmund do it too. Didn't sell all the players, even if they sell all the players for way too cheap. Like Lewandowski, they lost at a free. Aubameyang, they lost for not crazy money to Arsenal. And Erling Haaland, they refused to let go last year. So now he left on a release clause, which was 60 million, which was less than half of what they could have got last year. So Dortmund just are a bit stupid. That's why they will never challenge Bayern Munich long term, because they just don't understand how business works. But it's still like, if that could be possible, amazing. But I'm just not sure if that is possible. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like getting a smaller Belgian club, Portuguese club, maybe a Brazilian club, that makes sense. I see the logic behind it. I see how that's maybe even feasible. But a club of the size of Lyon, do you think we will try to go into towards another club of that stature? Or do you think we will now, okay, we gave this a go because they were just in the process of being sold anyway, so we might as well get involved, see if we can, jump in there? Do you think we'll try something like that for a similar size club again, or do you think we'll now focus on more smaller ones?
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but I do think we'll focus on more smaller ones. The reason why I was a bit skeptical about this report in the first place, even though the reporter is reliable, it's like, so we've gone to Portugal, and we're trying to buy Portimonense, but at the same time, we haven't gone for a Braga or a Porto or Sporting Lisbon. Those are the three
Yeah.
big clubs. But yet,
Oh, and Benfica,
so and Benfica. But so we've not gone for those four clubs. Even tested our luck, but we've gone for Lyon, an even bigger club. It's like at that, I don't know. Like the logic doesn't add up there for me. So
no.
yeah, I don't know.
It's very strange, isn't it? It's very strange. Almost as strange as Marcus Rashford winning Player of the Month and Eric Ten Hag winning Manager of the Month. Like, who votes for those things? Like, sorry, how didn't Haaland or De Bruyne win Player of the Month? I swear, Haaland scored like a hat trick in nearly every game he played this month. Like in September, is it for August? That's got to be for September, right? Because the next game.
So he won the last month, I think. So like the way they do these awards is like, if you get one, say in August, even if you score like ridiculous goals,
You
it's
can't
quite
get it in September, basically.
well. No, you can, but it's quite rare. So they
Okay.
tend to not do it if you get what I mean. But it has happened before. I think Bruno Fernandes did it before and a few others. But yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, have you heard though? Like Kevin De Bruyne has been in the Premier League, at City, I think for 7 years now. He's not once
He's
one
not
player
won
of the
once.
month. What? But how many times did he win Player of the Year? Like 3 times or whatever? Like what?
Yeah,
What
two,
the
three
play?
times.
It
Yeah,
just makes no sense to me, honestly.
yeah, two, three
Fascinating.
times. I
And also,
think.
like,
Yeah.
where are United? Like, I know they're ahead of us, but they're not that far ahead of us. How are they supposed to be all of them? Like, what? Like, I know they beat Arsenal, but come on. Like, what is this? Hilarious to me. Hilarious to me. But I think the next topic, before we get into talking about Crystal Palace, we'll talk about this Nkunku situation. I'll get something up on screen in a second. But ladies and gentlemen, before that, now, quick explanation of how things work. YouTube has been very odd for a lot of content creators the last 2 days. Like, a lot of numbers, views, interactions, all sorts have been drastically down, not just for myself, but content creators smaller like Charlie, but also much bigger than myself, Nepenthes, AJ3, like a lot of big content creators in very different realms of YouTube, of course, right? So what we do is directly talk about football club. Now, sure, I guess Nepenthes and AJ3 are still football related to some extent because they do FIFA, but there's also been content creators that do completely different styles of videos, and everyone's numbers are drastically down. So if you're here, number one, I appreciate you. And number two, if you wouldn't mind going to my Twitter, retweet the link, just so more people actually see it, because my only explanation for this is just less people get recommended everyone's videos. Now, I don't know where all these people go because they still have to be recommended someone's video, because unless they just stop using YouTube, they will still be watching some content. But if you wouldn't mind going to my Twitter, link is down in the description, at Last1507, sharing that tweet. And also, of course, subscribe and smash the like button, because that helps me spread these videos out to more people. I'd massively appreciate it. But let's get into this Christopher Nkunku story. Now, yesterday, was it yesterday? I think so. Out of nowhere, the Bild, obviously a newspaper from Germany, which is very interesting because they're very much so a tabloid paper, like in terms of the tabloid stuff, in terms of like, gossip stuff. They're almost like the Sun of Germany. Like everyone hates them. But they have certain things when it comes to sports where they're not actually bad. Now, there is Bild and there is Sportbild, who are kind of connected and owned by the same thing, but kind of separate entities. But as far as I'm aware, this story yesterday initially came from Bild. So that's why I was like taking it with at least a little pinch of salt, because they reported, and please correct me if I'm wrong in how I word it, that basically Christopher Nkunku had a specific, what was it, a cardiovascular medical, was it?
I mean,
And
I actually, I was just gonna say, I can't. The word you just said, I can't remember what it was. So I just literally copied the thing and tweeted it out because it was like cardio or something. I don't know if you wanted to get my tweet up because it
I've
says
got one
everything.
of your tweets up, but not that
Yeah,
one. Let me scroll further down to get the other one. Maybe it wasn't cardiovascular. Maybe I just
cardiological medical check.
Cardiological. What is a cardiological? I know cardiovascular, but I don't know what
I
cardiological is supposed to be.
I have
No,
no
actually, I
idea.
do kind of know. It's just heart stuff, really, isn't it? And cardiovascular is just your whole, blood flow system, isn't it? That's very, very simplistic explanations of human anatomy here. I'm not a doctor. Please don't sue me. But so basically, he had this medical, and then the Bild said it was paid for by Chelsea. And like I say, initially I took this with a little bit of salt. But then it was basically confirmed first by, I can't remember if Fabrizio or Matt Law came first, but basically they both confirmed that this happened. Now, I've seen varying reports. Someone said this summer, and someone said this medical happened in September. Now, mind you, today is the 30th of September, so it could have been September 5th for all we know, which is still a while ago in a sense. But I'm a little bit confused. And then to take this a little bit further, and I'll get something on screen now, is what Fabrizio Romano has said then after that initial story came out, as you can see on screen, verbal agreement between Nkunku and Chelsea around the contract, including salary and length. Chelsea are working to get the deal done very soon for 2023. They want to be fast. Nkunku's mission is Premier League football. He was on Manchester United's and others' list. Now, that is interesting to say the least. Interesting to say, especially because Fabrizio only said 2023 rather than specifying summer 2023. So, Pies, number one, let's start with the get-go. Let's start with the medical, this secret medical that apparently no one knew about, which, especially if it's a summer transfer move for next summer, it's literally 9 months early. Like, I understand you want to have a rough idea of how fit and stuff a player is, but unless the only explanation I would have for this, if potentially Nkunku as a kid had some sort of heart condition, and some children have that, and then they get some sort of surgery, and then for the rest of their life they're absolutely fine. So maybe that was the case. They wanted to check if he's actually absolutely fine before they get into this whole process of trying to buy him. That's my only logical explanation, that he had something going on. That's why cardiological exam, which, like I say, is heart stuff. So maybe that's why. But in general, doing any sort of medical 9 months before you're trying to sign someone is very odd, right? And then also the question is, are we sure we're talking summer and there's no way this is going to be a winter thing? Maybe a winter thing and loan him back and then only he comes to us in the summer? Maybe. But what's your view and knowledge of the whole situation? Because I fell out the clouds yesterday when I saw this. I was like, sorry, what? Secret medical in September? Why? What?
Yeah, no, it definitely was summer. I just don't think I had enough characters to tweet it out, but I did reply to someone it was summer, and I just assumed everyone knew it was anyway.
No, I
But
know,
yeah,
but I read somewhere else it was September. Now, I can't remember which source it was, but someone said it was September. They might be less reliable, fair play, but seemingly at least some people were of different opinions, whether it's summer or
no,
September or whatever.
I meant like the transfer is for the summer. It's not for January.
Aha,
It's
okay, sorry,
100%
my
for
bad.
summer.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah, but yeah, I have a feeling this wasn't supposed to be leaked at all, like for another few months, because yeah, like I just feel like Build somehow got the information, and then Fabrizio and Matt Law started contacting agents or whatever, and then they had to admit, yeah, it did happen. I just
Yeah,
don't. I feel like this wasn't supposed to get out at all. It was
yeah.
very out the blue. I don't know how Build got this information, who told them. I have no clue. But yeah, I mean, there definitely was varying reports of if the medical was for Chelsea or was it for some other things. I know. I think it was who was it? Loic Tanzi, who is a very good French journalist. He was quite spot on about Fofana. I think he was the first one to report our first ever bid. He said,
Okay.
it was not for Chelsea, even though Chelsea have an interest. And then I think Santi, I can't remember his second name, but another French journalist, he also said the same. But then, I mean, Matt Law, Fabrizio, they're the two kind of top guys. The only one who hasn't mentioned it is Ornstein, but yeah, I mean, now this is out there. I'm expecting more details to come out in the coming months if this is true. But Fabrizio
Mhm.
is very, very firm on it. Like he said,
Although he
Chelsea
was
want to
also
get it.
very firm on Christoph Freund, I will say.
He was, but I mean that it wasn't exactly wrong. To be fair, it
No,
was
he
pretty
just
much
changed his
done.
mind,
And
or they
then
convinced him
yeah,
otherwise. Yeah.
so I mean, he even said he was like, guys, don't be surprised if Leipzig or Chelsea come out and even the player deny it. But it's 100% true. It happened. This medical. Chelsea want to play the
That's
release
so funny.
clause.
Like, even if they deny it, trust me, it's still true.
Yeah, legit. Like I think he because you know what it is. He's saying that because of what happened with Cucurella. You know how Brighton denied it, and he was like, "No, it's
Yeah.
true, true." And then so he's gonna like just putting that in there. But yeah, I mean, I have no reason to doubt Fabrizio and Matt Law, to be honest with you.
No.
Very interesting, to be fair, because the thing I was thinking is like, well, if they tried to, well, I remember actually, when we streamed with Nathan, he said that Chelsea wanted to sign Nkunku or Gvardiol, but
Mhm.
they just wouldn't let him go. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like if they've done this in the summer, they had Tuchel then. Does Potter even know about this deal? Like, I hardly doubt he does. I mean, it's quite crazy to be honest with you. If they've done it towards the end of the summer in a view to next summer, it's kind of weird.
I mean, the whole Potter thing is weird anyway, because now in hindsight, after we appointed him, how many stories were there of like, he had something to do with us signing Cucurella in the first place, and then like he knew about this guy and he knew about that guy, and some stories made it sound like it was all planned all along, but then some other stories were like, no, but Aubameyang was still firmly a Thomas Tuchel signing, which I'm like, if Bodie knew in say July, August that he was going to want to get Graham Potter, surely he wouldn't have still given Tuchel a signing of his on deadline day, right? So I always found these stories confusing, sorry. But if it is true, I guess, that we had certain conversations with Potter already early in the summer, then I guess then you would have there would be some sort of explanation of him potentially being aware of the whole Nkunku stuff. But it is certainly strange. Let's take a second and actually, rather than on the whole situation with medicals, I hope you can hear me, guys. I think my internet connection is a little bit down at the moment. But yeah, rather than just the whole situation with medical and blah, 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 what do we think about the player? Now, I'm sure we've discussed him previously. We were previously linked with him months ago. But I think we need to discuss that again, because Nkunku is a very, very strange player. Now, Leipzig obviously change in which position certain players play on a regular basis. They've also already changed their manager this year. So obviously that this season, so that obviously changes things too. But Nkunku has played various different positions. He's played kind of as a striker with two players around him. He's played kind of as a inside forward in a 3-4-3 system. Like, he's played a lot of positions. A lot of people kept talking, he's just counter-attacking, when maybe counter-attacking is actually the least of his strength. It just happens to be that's how Leipzig play. So what do you think of him? And obviously a lot of people, potentially in the chat, definitely out there as the fan base, will have certain concerns with Bundesliga in general, but in particular, obviously signing RB Leipzig forwards, because we know how that went with Timo Werner. Now, so what's your view on Nkunku in general? And then also, what do you say to people that say, leave that alone, you remember Werner and stuff? Like, do you think you can't just convert it over as simply as that? Or like two different players is two different players, regardless of whether they come from the same club or not?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack with this player, because I do agree there's concerns and there's also a lot of excitement, because I think the excitement comes from, like, whenever I've watched him, like, people comparing him to Werner, I think he's much more technical than Werner with passing, with shooting, with his finishing. The way he finishes some chances is really, really good. He seems really composed, like he doesn't snatch at shots. I've not watched loads of him, but I've definitely watched quite a bit of him. I do have my concerns in terms of just the league, the amount of space you get. And I remember I watched him for France a couple of times, and every time he got pressed, he lost the ball. And I was like, that's the translation from Bundesliga to even national team. Like, when he was under pressure, he was kind of like in tight spaces, he lost the ball quite a bit. But I just think now, like, I'm just a bit more excited with someone like Graham Potter in terms of just. I just feel like he'll fully focus on player development as well, and he'll like someone like this. I think technical, can play in multiple positions, and I think he's got a lot of talent. He's still young. He's definitely been around. I mean, he's been at PSG with Tuchel, of course. So I think that's why
right back or right wing back, sorry.
links were made in the first place. I know Chelsea have had a long-term interest in him, so I think it's not a transfer that gets me off my seat, but I mean, it could do if it works out well. Like, this is definitely a talented player that we're signing here, and I know. Just from reading responses to my tweets, I mean, a lot of Chelsea fans have been saying, "Oh, fuck this, another Werner, Bundesliga, blah blah blah." But a lot of rival fans have been saying, "Oh, do you know what? That's actually a pretty decent signing." That. So I actually tend to listen to the rival fans more than Chelsea fans right now, because Chelsea fans are just really reactionary, and I want to listen to
in
what
both
rival
directions.
fans.
Sometimes we overhype players, sometimes we overhate players because we're like scared of another thing happening.
Yeah. So I think it would be a good sign. I mean, the price tag as well, just over 50 mil. I mean, that ain't half bad for a young attacker nowadays, or a youngish attacker that's obviously got a lot of talent. So
just to clarify, by the way, that just over 50 million is his release clause. He has a 60 million euro. Although with how the pound and the euro are going, this is nearing basically being 1-1-1 anyway. So maybe by the time we sign him next summer, 60 million euros will be 60 million pounds anyway. So who knows? But as of right now, like you say, it's just over 50 million, but it's from his release clause, which only becomes active next summer. So that wouldn't be active in January, would it? Now, I've highlighted it, I've gotten up a tweet, but you're an expert. The reason I've zoomed in so much is because he added the GIF of Nkunku playing at the bottom, and I don't want to get copyrighted. So I tried to zoom in a bit more so you can't see that. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted. Maybe I'll zoom in even a little bit more because you can still see that movement at the bottom. Maybe that's better. And just obviously your expert isn't perfect at everything, but he knows enough things. What happened here? All right. I will do that in a second. My girlfriend just asking me something. Yes, in a second. Like your expert says here, I think Nkunku is one of the more easily misprofiled players by those who don't watch him. Yes, he's a quick player who can play left wing, but he's very intelligent. He's excellent at exploiting gaps between defenders by passing or carrying. Now, what your expert didn't specify in this situation is, okay, he said he can play left wing, but what is his main position? Now, do you know that by any chance, Price?
I don't, man. I've seen him playing so many different positions. And as I said, I don't watch Leipzig weekly. So, yeah, I mean, that is one of my concerns. It's like, well, who's the Chelsea player we say that at every single game week about? Kai Havertz. Like, can they even coexist? Is this even a replacement for Kai Havertz? Is Kai Havertz going back to Germany? Like, I don't really know, because this guy, like, and I think again, one of the big rival account, I think it was an Arsenal account. He was like, Chelsea makes some good signings, but their policy is literally sign players who can play in multiple positions. They don't have a sort of they don't really sign players that, especially in attack, that play in one position, and that would concern me as a Chelsea fan. tend to agree with him because, I mean, a year or two down the line with Kai Havertz, we're still doing the same thing. Where does he play? You know what I mean? Like,
Kai has this season now on the Graham Potter to do something, and if he hasn't done anything more by the end of this season, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a good offer, if we accept it. Like, I don't think we will like force him out or like ship him off no matter that money, like with Timo Werner. Timo Werner we sold for quite little money compared to how much we bought him for. I don't think we will do that with Havertz, but if a reasonable offer comes in and he still hasn't improved much, then I think we'll accept it. Do you know what I mean? Do you agree with that? Or do you think we would potentially accept a drastically lower transfer fee?
No, I don't think we would with Havertz. I think Havertz would be recouping a lot of the fee we paid for him. I still think Havertz is, I mean, if you put him on the market, I think he'd still be one of the most sought after young players in the world, 100%.
Absolutely.
I just think he's got a lot of shit to sort out and he needs to start performing consistently. And as you said now, he's literally got still pretty much a whole season under Potter. And I think Potter won't change his position as much as Tuchel, in my opinion. I feel like
and who knows how the World Cup goes. I mean, Havertz might win Germany the World Cup, but then, I mean, then we're living in terms of transfer value.
Yeah, I mean, what will annoy me is, like, as you say, like when he scored that goal against England the other day, he literally got the ball in the 10 position shot, and I'm like, so you can do it, you just don't do it at Chelsea. Like, if he gets,
but
in
also
that position,
he never played as a 10 really at Chelsea, other
no,
than
but
once or
that's
twice, right? So
that's what I'm saying now, though. If he starts playing there, like, even on the weekend, and he has a good shooting opportunity and he passes out wide, I will be fuming because I've seen him do it now. So I'm like, you clearly have, like, we can't just keep relying on confidence players as well. Not everything can be confidence. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's got to
but
deliver now.
he
His
won't play
talent's
against
there,
Harry
man.
Maguire and Luke Shaw every week, so he might not always have this space.
Yeah, true, but talent's there, man. Like, just show it off more.
Absolutely.
Like, he's got so much to show. You know what I mean? There's a player in there. It's just so annoying, and that's what I think could happen with Nkunku. It's like he plays so many different positions. There's clearly a player in there, a technical player who's got a lot of goals and assists. Okay, yeah, it's Bundesliga, but still, and that's another thing that's annoyed me. Right? Everyone was like, "Well, Werner got shitloads of goals and assists in Bundesliga." Yeah, he did, but he also had shitloads of chances at Chelsea as well, where he could have got a lot of goals and assists, and he just didn't score or didn't make the right decision. So you can't just,
even when he came
like,
on for England against Germany, the guy could have scored 2 goals easily.
yeah,
Because
like
he
you
put
can't
himself into
just,
great position, as he always does, but then balls to finish.
like, you can't just say, well, because Nkunku's got loads in Bundesliga, that doesn't translate over to Premier League. Of course, not all of it will. Like, he's not going to get like a 30 goal and assist season, I highly doubt. But he will, get chances to have a good goals and assist record. So you can't just say, oh, he's Bundesliga. No, you'll get those chances at Chelsea, especially with the football we're going to play now as well. We're going to be much
And it's
more
also
attacking.
like, you can't just say, aha, he also got a good amount of goals for the same team. Well, but you have to look at how he got those goals, right? And he also gets a lot of assists, not just goals. And if you just watch him play, you see it's a very different style of player to Timo Werner. He's not just making runs in behind, and then being in front of goal. And then it's a question, does he score or does he not? There's a lot of, as your expert said here, he's very good at exploiting gaps between defenders. And if we have any problem, that's our problem. Like, quite literally. So if what your expert is saying is true, and I won't pretend to be a high expert on Nkunku either, but if what Alex is saying is true, that's, in my opinion, our biggest issue, that we struggle because obviously so many teams sit back against us, right? Yeah, we always say, oh, we need a creator. And while that's true, I think that's simplifying it a little bit too much, because they're like, Hakim Ziyech is a creator, just not a creator when he doesn't have space. The problem is we need to find someone that manages to create when there's very little space. And that's the important thing then, being able to see gaps and use gaps when they are there, because sometimes there is a gap and then we're too slow to use it, and then the gap's gone again, and then we need to start the whole build up again. And I think, again, I'm not 100% sure whether he will actually provide that for Chelsea in the Premier League as well. But if what Alex is saying is true, in my opinion, that's exactly the type of player we need. The question is just, like you say, who does that come instead of? Is it instead of Havertz? Is it already with the preparation of phasing out Aubameyang after one season, maybe selling him again next summer, could be? Or is it instead of Havertz? Like, frankly, we don't know. Frankly, we don't even know if it will happen, right? Especially now that this got leaked, you might get other clubs that might be interested in him, like getting, now that they've heard, okay, Chelsea are nearing getting this done, we need to get involved here if we want to challenge them. So who knows if it actually comes good? I mean, we were absolutely dead certain that we will get Koundé, and we didn't. So, there's no guarantee for anything. But if we were to get him, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. But it also wouldn't be like, I don't know. Can't really think of the last huge statement signing that we made that actually worked. But I guess ignored what happened after at the time of Lukaku. Like, I don't think Nkunku would be like a huge statement signing like Lukaku was at the time of signing him. But he could still be a very, very useful player for us, I reckon. But, Pice, unless you have anything else to add to the Nkunku situation, I think it's about time we get into talking about Crystal Palace and our lovely friend Bertram. Some of you watching might know him. He's been on a few of these previews and player rating streams, and he's on a number of more occasions even send me like little quizzes ahead of whichever game we're playing. Now, because it's only Pice and myself today, I was like, well, it's kind of pointless if I know the questions and answers and I just ask Pice, because it's makes it a little bit more boring if there's only one person thinking about it, talking about it. And also, if Pice doesn't know them, I don't want to make him like look silly here, whatever. That's the last of what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make things a little bit more entertaining. So what Bertram then instead did, he went above and beyond, and Bertram, I love you for it, honestly. He did a whole PowerPoint presentation with like questions, and then on the next slide, the answer ahead of Crystal Palace against Chelsea. So he even put all of our tags there, last 1507 CFC Pies, and Bertram's own won it twice, which I'm still a big fan of that handle. But I reckon, Pies, let's just get into this little quiz.
He's even got the Palace theme. He's even got red and blue for Palace. This is unreal.
In it, look at the badges at the bottom, badge here, badge there. It's crazy. Look at him go. I love it. Huge fan, huge fan. But ladies and gentlemen in the chat, if you want to get involved, please do get involved. But why don't we start with the first question? The Eagles have typically flown away from the Chelsea. I love how you word things. It's like a little poet. But anyway, the Eagles have typically flown away from the Chelsea, wounded and out of points. When is the last drop of points Chelsea have made at Selhurst Park? So when basically the last time we didn't win at Selhurst Park? Either in 2015-16 season, 2013-14 season, 17-18 season, or the 16-17 season. Now, I don't know either. So let's think about it, I guess. Now, okay, when did we win the league? We won the league 16-17. Did we win at Palace when we won the league under Conte?
Yes, we did. We did. I was on holiday in Thailand. I watched it in a bar. That's the only reason why I know that.
Ah, fair. Good. Okay. So we've ruled one out.
I think Costa scored a header, if I'm not mistaken, from a long ball over the keeper. I think that was that one.
It could be, it could be.
It was a really foggy. It was a really misty day. I think we won 1-0.
Oh, 1-0 maybe. Yeah, I think you might have a point.
Yeah.
Do you know what? 13-14. What year was that? Who was that? That was Jose's first season here, wasn't it? His first season in his second spell.
Yeah.
So I think that's the year Oscar scored that screamer free kick at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So I think we won that year as well.
That wasn't 14-15, was it? Was that 13-14?
No, because Oscar left under Conte, didn't he? But maybe it was 14-15. It could be as well. You're right.
It's got to be 1 or 3 because they were 2 shit seasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So...
I mean, the first one was awful season. It's just a question of what year was. When did we play them? Did we play them under Hiddink or did we play them under Jose? Right?
I don't. You know what? That season. I just remember. I don't even think I watched many of our matches. I can't remember it that season really. I
think you just tried to remove them from your memory.
yeah, maybe, probably. I don't remember us even. I don't remember that game.
Now, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I think in the 15-16 season when we had it so bad, I think Palace away was one of the games that Willian turned up and scored an absolute belter in, and I feel like we might have won. So I'm gonna say 17-18.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say that as well because I think I remember Zaha dunking on us in 17-18.
Could well be. All right, let's get to the next slide and find out. Let's find out. We are correct. Look at us
yes.
go.
I told you. Zaha, he dunked on. Yeah, I remember. He was down the left. Put it. Yeah, I remember now. I got it. Came to my memory.
Absolutely love it. A lot of people in the chat did guess that. A lot of people didn't, but a lot of people did. So big ups, and let's get to the next question. Which Chelsea player scored the goal that won Chelsea the league when we played Palace at home in 2015? Now, if you don't know that, you're either 12, no, not even 12, 5, or you've become a Chelsea fan yesterday. Like I think we're all going to be very comfortable in knowing that one. But let's give the chat a little bit of a moment to think about. I'm sure you know as well, Pice, right?
I bloody hope so. Otherwise, I'm embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the way it happened, like it wasn't, and like J Cam put in
Yeah.
the chat now. Like like if it was just purely he scored the pen, maybe it would have been a lot less memorable. Now I know it was winning us the league, so it would always be memorable. But Hazard never missed pens. So the fact that he missed it and then put the header in and then his celebration where he's like, oh, got away with one here. Yeah, I think
Yep.
it's very straightforward. And then Hazard, what a day that was as well. I remember, like, what a lovely day. Personally, I really liked that kid. Did you like the kid that season, guys?
It was all right. I really like our kit this season. To be fair,
Mm-hmm.
that one was a favorite. I just don't like how it has the lines across. That was the only
Okay.
thing. I like really
I like
plain kits.
I agree with you. The lines, maybe the general is not great, but I like the fact that the lines changed size. So higher up, the lighter lines were thicker, and further down on the kit, the darker lines got thicker. You can see it up here a little bit. Look how up here that's super thin. The further down you go, the thicker the dark
Yeah.
lines got. I really enjoyed that. But let's move on. Next question. Excluding Sterling, which current player is our top scorer against Palace? Now,
I'm going with
Pulisic.
Pulisic.
The
Straight
question
off.
is just how many did Aubameyang score for Arsenal against them, I guess. Because it's not
Yeah, I
Chilwell.
know. Yeah, true.
It's not Chilwell, it's not Jorginho, is it?
I'm going
We've
to
had
go
a
with
couple of
Pulisic.
pens against Palace, but surely he can't be top scorer. But, I mean, Aubameyang would be a pure guess, and Pulisic we know scored a lot, so I'd probably guess the same as well.
Aubameyang is a striker, though. I don't know how well he's done against them.
Yeah. But
I'm going to
Arsenal
go with
never did
Pulisic.
well against Palace, though, right? If
Yeah, they
when I think
didn't.
about
They
it.
didn't. I'm going with
feel like-
Pulisic.
Yeah, I think I'll probably agree. Even if it's a little bit boring, if we agree, I'll have to agree. Because we're correct. Look at us go. Remember that goal when he scored 2 that day, didn't he? And that left
we
foot finish, he
destroyed them.
rifled. Like, I was like, look at you go. Where's that Christian Pulisic been since that day, honestly? I haven't seen him since, honestly. Like,
We
he was so good.
we buttered it. Wasn't that when Cahill got injured?
Yeah,
Was
I think
that
we
the
won
game?
like
Yeah.
4-1, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was even 4. No, Tahar scored a screamer, so it was 4-1, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 4-1,
Yeah.
I think 2-0, then 2-1, and then we scored 3rd and 4th. Like,
Man,
good
Zaha's
day,
always
though.
scoring
Good
against
day.
us, isn't he? Zaha's always scoring against us. Jesus.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't tomorrow. Or if he does, we win 4-1 again. Then I don't care as much.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. All right, next question. Which one of these Chelsea players didn't score their first Premier League goal against the Eagles? Chalobah, Falcao, Pato, or Bakayoko?
I've got the answer.
I've got the answer as well, but only because I know who one of these did score their first goal against. I don't remember. Did Falcao even score for Chelsea?
He did.
He scored 1, didn't he? And that must have been against Palace then. Chalobah definitely, that was last season's first game when we won 3-0. Bakayoko, I don't remember him scoring either. But I know for a fact that Pato's one and only goal was a penalty against Villa, wasn't it?
Yep, away at Villa.
There you go.
So it's got to be Pato.
There you go. I remember so well how a lot of people in the Chelsea fan base, or at least a lot of people that at the time I was like online kind of conversing with, were like used to be huge fans of like Pato, and they were like all gassed when he joined us in January all of a sudden. After obviously, well, he was great at Milan. I think we all remember him from his Milan days. Then he went to Brazil, no one heard of him again. And we signed him in January only to give him his debut in April. And then all of a sudden he was allowed to take a pen. But it was a good pen, to be fair. But yeah, fair play, Pato. Were you excited at all when we signed Pato?
I was excited when we signed him, Falcao, Higuain, all these old strikers that just had incredible goal records. I always wanted Cavani as well, and I was a bit gutted when he went to Man United. I like the old strikers that have got big records. I always felt like they'd bang at Chelsea, but it was never really to be.
Never quite the case. I will always remember when they got battered in the end anyway, but I remember Milan playing Barcelona in the Champions League at the Camp Nou, and I think Pato scored like 10 seconds into the game. He just nicked the ball off Busquets. Busquets looking slower than Jorginho ever has, and Pato just runs past everyone, taps it home 10 seconds in, and then I think they lost 4-1. But still, like I will always remember that goal of him for AC Milan. It was crazy. All right, next question. I'm not sure how many questions we have, but next question. You can always try and catch an eagle for free. All right, good luck with that. I'm not sure where you live, where you have just eagles flying about, but sure. But the premium eagles come at a cost. So confused what he's talking about. Who is the most expensive player in the Crystal Palace squad, according to Transfer Market?
Oh, this is interesting, This is interesting.
I reckon it's
Um,
between two, surely. Surely it's got to be between Zaha and Eze, right? It can't be Anderson or Guehi.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like Guehi might have that because of just his potential and stuff.
Yeah. But he's a defensive player, though, right? I feel like on these kind of sites, the defensive players never
Yeah,
quite
true.
have the same market
I
valuation.
don't
as
understand. Like, what is the point in these sites anyway? Because like whatever they say is just not true. It's up to the club, anyways.
Yeah,
Like, it's like,
absolutely. And I feel like I'm not sure if that's the same in England, but especially in German and Austrian football coverage, like commentators and like pundits and stuff, they love to talk about, oh yeah, transfer market valuation of blah blah. I'm like, and what does that matter? Like what?
exactly. Like I've been on there before. I can't remember what player it was. I think it might have been like Foden or something. They were saying like he's a £50 million player. I was like, mate, are you on absolute? You know,
Yeah,
like he's clearly not, is he? You know what I mean? Yeah.
completely. Yeah, it's weird. I'm against Eze. What are you gonna go for?
I'm going Zaha and Guehi. I think
Okay,
you're probably right.
let's see. Zaha actually.
Oh,
38 million euros, which is about what, 32 million pounds ish? Anywhere between 32 and 35 million pounds. So fair enough. It was the obvious answer, and we decided to not go for the obvious answers because you'd probably think it was Zaha in the first place. But I
yeah,
was just thinking because he's not that young anymore. How old is he? Like 28, 29 ish?
yeah.
So that's why I thought maybe devalued him a little bit compared to the really young players, like you said, in terms of potential. But fair play. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe, share, smash the like button, all sorts of positive things. That would be very much appreciated. But yeah, unfortunately, some people did guess Zaha. I think J-Cam cheated a little bit, considering he gave me a number and it was basically correct. But yeah, a lot of people guessed other players. Someone even guessed Anderson. Very surprised that you did, but fair play. Fair play. Next question. Which of the following Crystal Palace players has made a dent scored against Chelsea? So, okay, which one of these has actually scored against Chelsea? Are we sure only one of them has?
Oh God, why am I thinking it's Joel Ward?
Yes, I'm thinking the exact same, but I'm thinking surely Ayew must have scored one.
I don't.
But he has a brother, right? So maybe it was just the other Ayew.
Yeah, he's probably scored against us with Swansea, 100%.
That's what I'm saying. But that's a different Ayew, right? The one for Swansea.
I feel like it's either 2 or 4. I'm trying to think if Schlupp scored against.
Schlupp could have scored against us for Leicester as well, for all we know. Remember, he was at Leicester when they won the league.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True. Oh. No, I'm gonna
Although
go
I'm
with
not sure if he would include that. Maybe he would only include the goals they scored for Palace, but I'm not sure. It's not Mateta. Like he only joined Palace this season, didn't he? So
I'm gonna go Joel Ward.
I'll agree with you. I don't
know why I'm going with that. I just got a feeling.
Let's see what the chat is saying. Someone said, a couple of people said, are you? I'll give you a chance, ladies and gentlemen. But Ward at the Bridge 15-16, someone very specific. I mean here. Sorry for butchering your name. But ladies and gentlemen, put your answer.
That just came to my head, so I feel like it might be right.
Yeah.
Or I could be
just felt right, innit? Joel Ward, like one of the corners we concede a stupid late goal from.
Yeah, exactly, like a tap-in or 5 ricochets or something.
Or yeah, like a random head at the far post is what I was thinking, but yeah. All right, let's check. Joel Ward, look at us go.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, and it looks like it was at the Bridge as well. It doesn't look like Selhurst Park. So, I mean, in the chat, might have been spot on. 15-16, could well be. Was that the first game of that season, actually, now that I think about it? Was that the first game of the season of Jose's miserable season? When we then lost at home, like, what was it, 3-2 maybe?
I can't remember. All I remember is the Southampton game from that season where Pella and Mane just absolutely donked on us. I don't remember Palace, but I just had a feeling it was Joel Ward. And that season was so long ago.
At home we lost 2-1, but it was on the 29th of August. So it might not be the first game, but it was one of the early games. We lost 2-1, yeah. And obviously Joel Ward scored and Bakary Sakho, you know, the ex Liverpool centre-back. And that is actually the very game Falcao scored against Palace as well. That game that we lost and Joel Ward scored.
Oh yeah.
So we went 1-0 down, 65th minute, equalised 79th minute, and 81st minute. So 2 minutes after we equalised, we went 2-1 down again. Flipping hell.
To be fair, that's not that.
According to the stats, according to the stats, neither team had a single shot on target. So how the flip is that happened then?
That's not even as bad as us this season. To be fair, I mean the West Ham game. When I was at that game, and I know it was disallowed, but Cornet scored that goal. I swear that was not even like it felt like 10 seconds straight after. It was horrible.
Yeah, yeah. We always do that, innit? Like I feel like every other club, as soon as they score, they're flying. As soon as we score, we concede another goal. Like honestly. That was it. All the best to everyone and up the Chelsea. Thank you, Bertram. We appreciate you very much. We had a good time. We had a great time. All right, let me get this off the screen quickly. And let's actually get into talking about Chelsea against Crystal Palace in Graham Potter's first game in charge of Chelsea. Now, Pies, how do you feel ahead of the game? Are you excited to see, like, I know we saw one against Salzburg, but it was like this one-off random game in the middle of postponements and international breaks. So it to me at least personally, it feels like, okay, the Graham Potter reign starts tomorrow. So are you excited? Are you nervous? How do you feel?
I'm a bit nervous, to be fair. I feel like Palace after a break is a horrible fixture, especially away. I just feel like they're a really good team under Vieira. Even against Arsenal in the first day, they had moments to win that game, and they just didn't. And Arsenal, did well. But I feel like we can definitely get a result. I mean, we've got a good record overall against them. We do seem to like
Graham Potter doesn't, but
yeah. I mean, it's never a battering against them, but we do seem to pull out a victory. So yeah,
we beat them 3-0 at the Bridge last year. I feel like at the Bridge we battered them every now and again, but away it's never comfortable.
I just think the last away game is when Ziyech scored that late volley from across, didn't he? So yeah,
exactly when Lukaku had 7 touches. That was that game.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird one. You know what I do like, and this might sound a little bit weird, but I kind of like that it's 3 o'clock instead of like a 5:30. You know, lights under lights kind of thing. I'm kind of happy that it's a 3 o'clock. I'm definitely nervous though because I don't know 1 what team is going to put out, 2 the formation, 3 how we're going to play, 4 what Palace is going to take. Like it's the element of the unknown for me, and I just want to see how we do.
Absolutely. And that's the difficult one. I mean, we're going to talk about our teams in a second, but it's going to be nearly impossible to predict what Graham Potter's actually going to do. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because on the one hand, it's like, okay, we've gone from a Champions League winning manager to a manager that's never done anything more significant than winning the Swedish Cup, right? So, mind you, with the team he took in the 5th or 4th Swedish division, I think 4th, and took them to the 1st division of Sweden and won the cup. So that in itself, if you look at it, it's actually very impressive. It's just not on the level of a Champions League, of a Premier League, or even a French league, a German cup, like Thomas Tuchel, of course, has won. So it still feels kind of weird. And when I see his press conferences, I like him, but Graham Potter sometimes gives me kind of assistant vibes. Do you see what I mean with that? Like he gives me like a great coach. I think he understands football incredibly well, and I think he understands how to deal with people. Like clearly, I mean, what is it? A master's in communications or whatever it is. But he gives me assistant vibes. Does he give you assistant vibes? Hopefully, it will change that. But he gives me a little bit of like, when Steve Holland randomly took press conferences. That's what it feels like when Graham Potter is holding a press conference.
You feel like it's just a bit boring kind of thing. I've kind of like, I don't know. I feel like he just doesn't give us great entertainment. But I mean, they're not for entertainment, to be fair. No. I just feel like Tuchel just, played with the media so much. And it was, to be fair, though, there was one quote earlier. He was asked about, he was like, oh, you're not worried or something about the upcoming schedule. And he was like, no, bring it on. Like, that gave me Chelsea manager vibes. For the first time, I was like, yes, this is what I want to hear. This is how I back you. I want these statements. Even if it turns out horribly wrong, I like the attitude and what comes to your head. Like, I don't know. I kind of get where you're coming from a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, we've had only 2 press conferences with him and only 1 game. So that very much so can still change. You know what I found weird before we get into actually talking about the team and stuff? Considering he's been our manager for now over 3 weeks. I know he's only played 1 game, but he's been our manager for over 3 weeks. I feel like Chelsea have released a very weird lack of content around him. Is that just me?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, he only had that sort of one... Yeah, he only had that one interview. I mean, it was quite long, walking around the training ground stuff. I mean, even watching that, I was like, right, well, great. This is a lot about your career and stuff, but not really much about Chelsea. So, I do tend to agree with you with that, to be fair.
Yeah, a little bit odd, especially now that, I mean, Todd Bowley is literally going to sack the entire media team because we haven't had a game in like 4 weeks, and we do a press conference and they flip and can't get the stream to work. I was like, what are you doing, people? Like, with Chelsea Football Club. Some clowns, can my camera focus, please? Thank you. But you know what? As much as it's going to be difficult, let's get to this lineup screen here. Before that, we need to clarify a couple of things because there are a few people missing from tomorrow's game. Number one is Ngolo Kante. He has returned to training, but not to full training yet. He's on pitch training and with the group in parts of it, but not full training. So this comes too early for him. Now, initially, the quotes, because the stream obviously didn't work itself, journalists didn't seem to be sure who he was talking about. So there was thoughts, Kante will be back next week. But actually, when he was talking about the whole next week thing, that was about Mendy, who obviously had that small little knee injury, even though, against the West Ham thing, he was apparently clattered into his shoulder, but somehow he has a knee injury. And obviously that was the last game he actually played for Chelsea. But yeah, he's out as well, and he's the one who might be back next week. So we will have Kepa in goal tomorrow. At least that's one debate that we're going to have a little bit taken off our hands here. And then two very unfortunate ones. Both Marco Correa and Carney Chukwuemeka are ill, and that's why they will miss the game. So we have four players missing in that sense. Obviously, Kante and Edu Mendy recovering from injuries, and Cucurella and Chukwuemeka being ill. Like I say, unfortunate in the sense that, Cucurella knows Graham Potter anyway from his Brighton days, but also he was not in the Spain squad, was he? So he could have drastically benefited from this international break with a lot of players gone. Same as Chukwuemeka, who of course did score the 2 goals in our 2-1 win over Brighton behind closed doors from the bench. So would he have started? Probably not, but maybe it was enough to make him as a sub option. But now he's ill. So we're missing those. So I can already put Kepa in goal. So that's something. How do you feel about that, Pite, anyway? Obviously, Mendy is out for the time being, but do you feel that Kepa might stay in goal even when Mendy is back?
I don't think so. I think Mendy will probably come back in.
Okay.
But if Kepa has like a blinder tomorrow, I feel like he could stay in for the Champions League game. But
he probably will. I don't think Mendy will be fit for midweek then.
Yeah,
judging by what you're saying.
Yeah, true. No, I feel like Mendy's still the number one for me, even though he's been pretty bad for a while.
Yeah. And just because it seems like, at least the last 2 games, because it will be, or at least against Salzburg, it was such a risky high line. It requires the goalkeeper to be so aware and so confident in coming off his line when necessary. And that's one of that, and the ball at his feet are Mendy's 2 biggest flaws and 2 biggest weaknesses. And Kepa is actually good at both of those things. So that's why I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Kepa actually becomes the number 1 again. Like, whether I agree with it or not, I'm not even sure yet. It depends on how Kepa does. But I wouldn't be shocked by it. Just because those 2 things that Mendy struggles with seem to be so important with the way Potter plays. But obviously, he could play slightly differently going forward now. But do you see what I mean with that? Or do you think I'm reaching with that one?
No, 100%. I think we discussed this before, 100%. But I do feel like Mendy will get a run in the team. I do see that, and I think if he performs and if he improves, I feel like he'll stay in the team. But maybe further on in the future, he could be phased out. There's actually been quite a lot of reports lately that, especially from Matt Law, that Chelsea are not really sure. They're debating whether to buy a goalie. So I thought that was extremely interesting. The fact that they may be discussing that already.
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely. But the next thing we need to discuss, because Kepa in goal, well and good. But are we going to play a back 3 or back 4, especially not just in general with Graham Potter, but also with Cucurella being injured or ill, but missing the game regardless. Because while we did play that back 3 against Salzburg, the wing back was kind of Raheem Sterling, who didn't really play as a wing back. He was just a left mid / left winger, which is why that left centre back being half a left back, half a centre back, and Cucurella worked fantastically. But Ben Chilwell isn't going to play here, I don't think. So are we then, if Ben Chilwell has to play left back / left wing back, are we then even going to play a back 3? Or are we going to put like a Koulibaly here and then play Sterling here regardless? What would you reckon, Pice? Because I wouldn't be shocked if just because Cucurella is out, we will play a back 4,
Yeah, I actually agree with you, to be fair. I just don't know what for the back formation it would be.
It seemed to be a 4-3-3 against Brighton in that behind closed doors games, but obviously none of the players that played against Salzburg were involved. So who knows whether he would also pick that with the best team available, I guess.
Yeah, it's really hard, this, isn't it? Thing is, I want to go for a 4-3-3, but one of the players I want to start, I don't want to start him on the wing, so that's why I'm sort of debating it. But I mean, we could go for a 4-3-3. I do agree with you. I think Sterling. Oh, you know what? No, I do. I can't. I don't know
I'm
if I
just a little
see
bit
him
concerned if Sterling
leaving out.
plays this position again and
Yeah, like
behind
does
him
he
is a
leave out
out-and-out
Chilwell?
centre back. That doesn't
Yeah,
cause an issue. That's what I'm worried about.
yeah, yeah. But at the same time, like if we played this, I think obviously it would be what Koulibaly, Sterling,
Yeah.
and then you'd leave out Chilwell. But I don't know if I mean is
Or
Chilwell
would
even
he
ready
then
to
play like
start? Like,
an Aspie here?
oh God, I hope not. Christ, please no.
Do you know what I mean? Like, where I'm like, if he really
Yeah.
wants this kind of like transitional centre back / left back, then if it's not Cucurella, Aspie is probably best suited to that position.
Oh, you know what? Let's stick
Maybe
with this.
Chile, but I'm not sure. Like, at least Thomas Tuchel seemed to not think Chile should be anywhere near a back three. Maybe Potter disagrees, I suppose.
Yeah, let's stick with this. Let's stick with this.
Okay, let's stick with this. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So I think what we can, well, Thiago Silva doesn't tend to play after international breaks, does he? So at least last season he never did once. So do you expect him to play on this occasion? Again, last season he
Yes.
didn't. Not one single time did he play the game after an international break. Not once in the whole season. So that's why I'm not sure.
I did say yes, but you kind of made me rethink about it. Uh, see that
Especially
again.
now that
I just think,
maybe we need to change it to a back four.
yeah,
Because if
yeah,
Thiago
because I
Silva
just,
doesn't play, what do we do?
yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, go 4-3-3.
Let's go
Go
4-3-3.
4-3-3.
We could be
Let's
wrong. This
do
is
it, man.
mostly what we think, plus a mixture of what we want from Graham Potter, I guess. So we aren't saying we're going to be right. We're just saying maybe. That's basically what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting at.
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, let's put it like that. I mean, who knows if it's going to be like this, but it's going to be interesting for sure. All right, then. In that case, the two centre backs, are we going to say Fofana and Koulibaly? But those are the two that actually didn't play against Salzburg. So are we even sure those two are going to play?
No, I think it will be Fofana and Koulibaly, 100% for me. I couldn't see if he puts Aspi in there again and benches Fofana. I might be
especially in the
Potter out
back four,
already. I might be Potter out already if he does that.
Exactly.
Christ, no,
Yeah.
please, just for the one-off game. Like Fofana's amazing. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, if Thiago Silva plays, fair enough. But yeah, if it's any of even Chalobah all of a sudden over Fofana, I'd be very confused. I'd be very, very confused. All right. In that case, then, do we assume Chilwell at left back? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
What a waste of time, by the way. I want to have a go at Gareth Southgate one more time about this. He called Ben Chilwell up for the first game against Italy, left him in the hotel. Flipping brilliant, that. Absolutely needed that one. And then he's on the bench against Germany, but he's an unused sub. Mother flipper, why on earth didn't you just leave him at Chelsea so he could actually work under his new manager? Like, you're just such a prick. I hate Southgate. I just want to punch him in the face, quite frankly. Honestly, such a prick. I hate him. And I'm not even English. Imagine how much I'd hate him if I was English. But yeah, I guess the chance for Chile, because if, judging by the formation we played against Salzburg, with Cucurella having the left centre-back spot and then Sterling playing the left wing-back role in a way, there's no real space for Chile. So this is a big opportunity for him, I reckon. But we don't know if he's anywhere near remotely fit enough to really challenge Cucurella already seriously. What do you think?
So was that? I missed it a little bit.
No worries. Basically, do you think that Chilwell can already, if he plays well, if he plays tomorrow, presumably he will, do you think he's fit enough to even challenge Cucurella seriously already? Because how many games has Chilwell played since this season? He started against Everton, and then he came on against West Ham. Those are really the only two main games that he played, right? Other than this behind the closed doors game against Brighton.
You know what the difficult thing for me is that I would love to sort of have a run of games where Chilwell and Cucurella play, but at the same time,
if Sterling's the wing back, we're not going to need
him. That's the problem. Also, Koulibaly, like, where do you play him? Do you start rotating him with Silva? So it's a difficult one for me. But I'm going to currently say no, but just because I feel like he needs a run of games. But again, it's incredibly harsh on him because I feel like he's going to get starts in this run. But obviously, whatever you think, Graham Potter is going to have a bit of bias towards Cucurella. Like, that was his guy at Brighton. So, I mean, Tuchel clearly preferred Cucurella over Chilwell just for fitness, even if anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be really hard months for Chilwell. I think the World Cup's gonna be big for him. If he does go and he does play.
Yeah. See, if he does go, he'll probably be sat in a hotel all tournament, unfortunately, knowing Gareth Southgate. But yeah, host Trends TV. I'm not going to try to pronounce that first bit because I have no idea how to pronounce it. But yes, we are aware Cucurella is ill. Just tomorrow, Chilwell will play, and we're discussing whether he can actually keep that spot once Cucurella is then back from illness, which we both doubt. Right back, very straightforward. Reece James, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
There you go. Not really much to say. I still, because how do I say this? So obviously he's played them in most of his games at Chelsea at right wing back. Now, not all of them, because especially on the Lampard at the beginning, it was back four still. Sometimes, obviously, Lampard also used the back three at times and then played Reece James wing back. But under Thomas Tuchel, of course, it was pretty much always right wing back, except with a few exceptions at right centre back. Even Graham Potter did that for the last whatever 15, 20 minutes against Salzburg. He played him at right centre back. And I still, like in a back four, I think people sometimes forget how attacking a fullback can be in a back four. I think sometimes people think, okay, only as a wing back can you be an attacking fullback. I'm like, have you seen Trent? Have you seen Robertson? Have you seen Jordi Alba? Have you heard of Dani Alves? Like all these players played in a back four, and look at them being offensively involved, right? As a normal right back, he can still be bloody involved. He just needs to make sure he gets back in time, really. That's it.
Yeah, and also I think, with Reece James, he did play both games, so I'm a little bit worried. Not that he's injury prone or anything, but he's not had much rest.
Yeah, and we've got
Especially
Milan next, like in midweek, and then who do we play in the Prem next
yeah,
week? I don't even know. Do you know?
Wolves at home, so these are difficult games we've got. I can't
Terrible.
lie. So I mean, again, you could probably see Aspi come in, I guess, but I think just because it's I don't know, because the Champions League, bro, is
Oh,
so.
Ruben, considering he played right
Yeah,
back
I
against
mean,
Brighton,
Christ, I mean that may be a view to playing him. I'd be shocked though, to be fair.
I would be shocked as well. But we need to rest him. So you know what? I'm going to quickly get up our
Bro, like
fixture
I'm
list.
just thinking, like I know the Premier League's important, but if we don't win these games against Milan, we're in Europa League. So
Exactly.
like,
Well, maybe it's a chance for a trophy.
I can't watch that competition.
No,
No,
honestly.
but
I mean, but there's no real games to rest anyone now because Palace
no, there's
tomorrow,
not.
then
No,
Milan,
yeah.
then Wolves, then Milan away, Villa away, Brentford away. We have 3 away games in a row: Milan, Villa, Brentford. Then United at home, Salzburg away, Brighton away. And the first game, even though, like, if we win both games against Milan and the game against Salzburg, then maybe we can rest a couple of players at home against Zagreb. But that's kind of the first game where I'd rest anyone because Brentford, I mean, they battered United, so can't exactly take them too lightly. Villa have a good squad, even though they are kind of shit. So what do you do with that? Wolves have the best defense in the league until they got battered by Man City. So we need Reece James. It's difficult. He has to play tomorrow anyway, but difficult. Like very, very difficult, honestly. But it gets even more difficult now. Because who plays here? Do we just put Jorginho here? I mean, we've kind of been talking about for the last 2 years how the reason we don't play this system, this formation under Thomas Tuchel is Jorginho. Now, I didn't always fully agree with it, but still that was kind of the general consensus, right? Whether it was correct or not, who knows? But it was kind of the general consensus. That's what people thought. And let's not forget, against Brighton, this behind closed doors friendly, Chalobah played this position. Now, again, none of the players that played against Salzburg, so that includes Jorginho, were involved. But do you just see it being Jorginho? Do you see it being Loftus-Cheek? But, I mean, Graham Potter has so far used Loftus-Cheek as a second striker and as right back. So, not exactly as DM. Could it be Zakaria? But he played as an 8 in that game against Brighton. He didn't look particularly good or fit for Switzerland. I didn't watch it, to be fair. But what do you reckon, Pice? Just Jorginho, or what do you think?
I'll go with Jorginho just because I think he's the most experienced in this role.
Yeah.
Obviously during Sarri's season. So yeah, I'd go with Jorginho.
Who would be, if say it's not Jorginho, who would be your second pick? Because I don't even know who my second pick would be, if I'm honest. I'll say when Jorginho is rested and we still play this formation, like who would I put there? I don't know, bro.
I'd probably have to go with Ruben, to be honest with you, just because I think, again, he's played there a little bit in terms of deep line 6. But I'd like to see Zakaria there. I'm just not sure on Zakaria's ball playing abilities yet. So I still feel like Ruben, even though he might hold on to the ball too much, he's still probably, like I'd probably prefer him there if we was going to see it in a game.
Maybe Kovacic. Now, I know obviously he's much better as an 8, but obviously with having Mount, having Gallagher, having Zakaria, who's apparently used as an 8, in my opinion, Ruben should be a serious option for these 2 8 roles if that's the formation we're going to play. And Kovacic against Austria, obviously they beat us, 3-1, I think. Brozovic got injured in that game. And then once Brozovic, who started as the DM in basically a 4-3-3, and then once Brozovic got injured, it was Kovacic that dropped into the DM role and played that role for the rest of the game and played really well in it. So maybe Kovacic is the second option? I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Kovacic is my guy, but, like, I just think with him, it's like, I do worry a little bit about defensively and sort of, sticking to the position, I guess. Like, I don't know if he can just stick there and not, avoid not going on dribbles or something like that, you know what I mean? So, and I just think, like, is he really someone who just picks up the ball and passes it? Is he, like, I mean, he is, but at the same time, I just feel like he's got so much more going forward and beating a press than just sitting in DM and pass it sideways, if you get what I mean.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I was, like I say, it's more like a second pick, right? Say Jorginho is unavailable for whatever reason it is, and we have so many other 8s that we can afford to put Kovacic elsewhere where he's maybe still useful and just play Mountain Gallagher or Mountain Ruben or Mountain Zakaria or Mountain Ruben as the 8. And we have so many other 8s still available. You could even drop Havertz into that role theoretically, right? If it's attacking enough. And Kovacic, like, except Ruben, Kovacic, the only one who can actually play the 6. Maybe Zakaria, who knows? It's a tough one. But for tomorrow, Jorginho, I think we can all agree on. And then the question is, who are the next 2 then, bro? Kovacic, I think we can all agree will be one of them. Should be one of them. So does that mean it's just Mount and Kovacic?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to go so, yeah, I think so.
You'd have to. Whether it's then Mount right side, Kovacic left side, or the other way around, or they switch mid-game, could be all of it. I'd probably prefer it this way around, even though I know after the Salzburg game, you and I had a bit of a disagreement where Kovacic plays. Everyone I've spoken to, by the way, has confirmed my view of this, that Kovacic always plays the left, but you think he always plays the right. So
he doesn't. I don't get it. He doesn't. He plays on the right, I swear.
No, bro, he plays on the left. It doesn't matter. But I think Mount, as an 8, is better off the left because then he can shoot better, like this, like, in swingers. So I would, and he's the guy that shoots. Kovacic never shoots anyway. Well, never. Very rarely, shall I say. So I would probably prefer it this way around. But see, this midfield, can't complain about too much, really. Obviously, Jorginho might be dodgy in transition, but in general, it's a good midfield, that.
It's class midfield. It's very good.
Exactly.
Especially going forward and progressing the ball into the attack. I think that's very, very good.
Absolutely. Where it's going to get difficult is here. The other 2, maybe we'll find. I think the player 9 is the most obvious one, nearly in the whole team. That's going to be Raheem Sterling, right? I think we're probably all in agreement on that. Now here, I am picking Aubameyang. I will not. Now he might be much fitter now after these 3.5 weeks without games. I've not seen a picture of him in training with the mask anymore, so I assume he would also play without the mask, but I don't know for sure. Maybe you know, Vice, but I will pick Broja. Will you pick Aubameyang or will you pick Broja? Or Havertz, I guess.
I'm gonna pick Aubameyang just because I want to see him again. I still got that little bit of a new striker hype thing in me. I do want to see him start. I also want to see Broja start, but if it's Broja, I'd like to see him and Aubameyang with someone in behind. So I'm gonna go with Aubameyang for me. Yeah.
Okay. It's a weird one because obviously in the last game we played this 2-striker formation and Havertz played deeper. And I know you said he wasn't good at all. While I agree he wasn't very good, I still saw things. I'm like, this is what I want to see from Havertz. Not with the things he did on the ball, but I feel like, okay, he at least moved in good areas now. Once he gets used to this, he will be much better with the ball at his feet as well. And now if we actually play this formation, then he won't be in the team really, unless he plays on the right flank. And the question is, will he? So who do we have left, really? That's a serious option. Now, of course, theoretically, you could put Sterling on the right and Aubameyang on the left wing, which he played at Barca at times and obviously at Arsenal at times, but I would be a no for that personally. Pulisic on the right, I don't see Pulisic playing. He didn't play well for the USA. First game he missed through injury and obviously travel and time zones, right? Similar to Thiago Silva, of course, him being a lot younger though. So that leaves you with Hakim Ziyech, who was, of course, internationally with Morocco for the first time in over a year and a half, I think. Over a year for sure, anyway. He's an option, I guess. And then Kai Havertz. But do we want Kai Havertz in that role? Now, if Reece James is really attacking as a full-on right back, then maybe you can talk about Havertz being there because James just will go here. And then maybe you almost form a back three, but then you still have Chilwell here where I'm like, are we sure we can do a back three with Chilwell? So who would you pick at right wing, bro?
I would have to pick Havertz. But I did say earlier I didn't really want this formation just because I don't really want him playing there. But again, it does make sense what you said. Look, if he's allowed to drift inside and not be an actual winger, then good. But 4-3-3, these are wingers. So yeah, I'd have to go with Havertz. I mean, I was looking at it and I was like, well, you know
Maybe
what?
we'd have to switch that one again because Mount is a bit more suited.
You know what? It could even be if you put Mount there. Maybe Havertz could go in midfield. I mean, you're a fan of that, aren't you? Him playing as an
I am a fan of it. I'm not sure if the manager is though.
No, yeah. I mean, that could be an option to switch Mount and Havertz just because Mount has played on the right more. Not as a winger, but he's still played on the right, and obviously he's got that link up with James that Havertz might not on that side.
Yeah.
So I think that's an option. Thinking about it now, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, put it in the chat. Who would you start at right wing? Because, like I said, I think it's very, very tough. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I could even put a poll in the chat just to make it a bit more interactive. Why don't I do that? All right. Who would you start? On type, apparently, at right wing. Now, of course, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know if this would be the formation, and it might not be. But let's assume this is the formation. I will give you a couple of options as to who should start in this position. I will do Havertz, I will do Ziyech, I will do Pulisic. Is there even a real last option? Is there a fourth option?
You got Ziyech?
Yeah, I got Havertz, Ziyech, Pulisic. Those are the three I put down so far.
Probably Mount, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, obviously not in our team because we already put him elsewhere, but I guess theoretically, yeah. I guess maybe then I could have put Sterling. And then, because I'd rather, like, if I play Sterling and Pulisic, I would rather Sterling on the right, Pulisic on the left, than Sterling on the left, Pulisic on the right, just because I think for Pulisic, it makes a much bigger difference which side he plays on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do see that, yeah. I just think Sterling's goal is off the left at the moment. Don't really think we can afford to switch him.
No, that's also very true. It's a tough one. Like, you know what, just for the banter, because we've been sat here and it's just you and I, so we've kind of not taken that long anyway. Let's go back to it if it was to be a 3-5-2. Okay. All right, this is a bit screwing all of it up here. All right, so let me just shift around. Let's assume it's this formation instead, okay? For a second. Who would you then play? Would it still be like that, basically, just in different positions? I guess the only question would it be Chilwell or would it be like Chalobah, Thiago Silva or Aspie, really? Because otherwise, I'd probably stick to the same team, even in this formation.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good to me. As you said, like, Chilwell was probably the only real debate, I would say.
Still the question of Broja or Aubameyang. I would pick Broja, you would pick Aubameyang. But otherwise, maybe that's the idea. Maybe we will switch between both formations because the lineup suits both. Like the set of players that we've picked suits both formations relatively similarly. Maybe it suits even this formation a little bit better, now that you just look at it. Because then you don't have to put Havertz at right wing. So maybe this is actually better.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big emphasis for him as well, is the fact of switching formations sort of mid-game or being able to be sort of tactically versatile. That's definitely something that top managers do. And I think he's already mentioned it a couple of times, so yeah.
Fair. That is fair. I mean, maybe it's Omari Hutchinson. He's been training with the first team. He's still training with the first team now that all the first teamers are back. But let's say I doubt that he will start, okay? MK says, Pulisic/Ziyech, please guys refuse hate in your hearts. I refuse hate in my heart. But I still wouldn't start Ziyech, if I'm honest. I mean, maybe in a 4-3-3 certainly suits him more than anything else. So maybe then it's more of a valid thing. But see, you say that. Hakim Ziyech isn't a real winger either. Hakim Ziyech is a load of no one knows, as goes for Kai Havertz, frankly. Because when we've played him in like when we've played him as a winger under Lampard, we were like, oh, he's a little bit too slow. He can't go 1-on-1. And then when we've played him under Tuchel and we switched to this 4-2-2 that switched to a back three, and he was all the way out wide, and it was like, oh, he's amazing all of a sudden. But he didn't do that when he was all the same out wide under Lampard. So I'm like, because he's not quick enough to run him behind. He's not quick enough to beat a man 1-on-1. He's dribbling. He loves a step over and then running into the opposition. I don't know. Obviously, Ziyech will help us unlock defenses if he gets enough chances to try. Like out of 10, he will. If he tries 10 passes, he will play probably 5 incredible ones, 2 good ones, and 3 shit ones. Maybe 4 incredible ones, 4 good ones, and 2 shit ones. But I don't know. Maybe, now that I've lined it up like this, maybe I'd actually prefer this formation, just for the players that we currently have. Just because we didn't sign a winger in the summer, and I think we drastically lack a right-sided winger.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. I do see the debates.
Absolutely, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, like I say, this can obviously very comfortably just shift. You know what I mean? You do this, and then Reece drops back, and you literally just with one shift, like it's almost like a wheel. We just spun it around a little bit, like starting up a bit, Chilwell left, Koulibaly left, Fofana left, James down, Havertz over to the right, and then whoever the striker is more centrally as a lone striker. So and the midfield just stays around around the kind of like almost like a clock, I guess. So it can comfortably shift between the two. But you spoke earlier, you're a little bit nervous because Crystal Palace is a difficult opponent, and they most certainly are. But do you still think we're going to get a win tomorrow, mate?
It's so hard. I just think it depends on the team as well, on how we start. I think on the Tuchel is like we started slow so many times and we let the team come into the game. So if we can start really aggressive and make it difficult for them, have a lot of the ball, make it not really feel like an away game, I feel like we can win comfortably. But I'm gonna go with a 2-1 Chelsea win. Yeah, I was thinking 1-1, but I'm gonna go 2-1 and back us.
Okay. You know what? I've just thought of something. So let me quickly get this one up again. Something that I told you just before we went live. I was watching, ladies and gentlemen, watch it yourself as well if you fancy it. Chelsea on their YouTube channel, they released a video of basically like revealing the FIFA ratings to the players. Obviously, the new FIFA came out today, the full version. And they did like a prank and gave Man like a fake one and Cucurella a fake one. Cucurella was like shouting around, "I'm slower than Jorginho." It was quite funny. I lost the shit. But then Broja all of a sudden turns up after Mount has already been given his proper card, and Broja obviously has a 75 rated goal card and only has 76 pace. And he walks in and he's like, "Sorry," to Mount, "You're quicker than me." And then basically he says, "I'm quicker than Raheem." And then Chilwell stood next to them and says, "Yeah, you're probably the quickest in the squad." Which, number one, incredibly shocking revelation to me personally. Obviously, Rudiger has left, who was the fastest before. But we did since then sign Raheem Sterling, who we all know is very fast. It's obviously mostly in acceleration, but still. We have Aubameyang, who a few years ago was one of the fastest players in the whole world, and he didn't break his knee since then, so why did he get so much? He's not that old yet. He's only 32. But now, if Broja is that quick, maybe we should consider him here. Because, I mean, judging by that one cross he played to Ziyech against Salzburg, the guy knows how to cross with a trifle, and if he's that quick, a good run in behind and then a cutback could be quite good. And you can still do the whole, how I said with Havertz, drop inside. You can still do that and just him join rather than be behind. Do you know what I mean? And if Broja is that quick, maybe that's something to think about.
I do see kind of Ruben vibes from it as well. The fact that, how he'll just get on the ball and he'll just like take someone on, and just because he's so fast and strong, like when he gets into that sprint, I think it's quite hard to stop him. So yeah, I feel like that's why Ruben's so good down the right hand side, because he can just kind of carry it. So I do see that. I just think, I feel like that might be a little bit too unfamiliar with him just for now. But it's something we could think about for sure, like, in one game or two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So far in the poll, ladies and gentlemen, and by the way, if you haven't placed your vote yet, please do. So far, Kai Havertz is winning with 45%, followed by Christian Pulisic on 29%, Hakim Ziyech at 19%, and Mason Mount only at 6%. I assume because most of you, or a lot of you, would rather he starts in midfield if we were to go with this formation. But place your votes if you care. But yeah, let's go for Kai Havertz. You said a 2-1 prediction, didn't you, mate? What am I going to say?
2-1.
I can't remember what I said against ours, but I think I said like 3-1 or something. Well, that didn't come true. So you should watch Broge's interview. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did love when he said who's Tottenham. So he was basically, as a kid, he was playing in some sort of youth football tournament, children's tournament, and the scouts were there to watch somebody else, but Broge absolutely smashed it, was player of the tournament, scored most amount of goals, blah, blah. And then apparently some Tottenham scout came to talk to his parents. They told him about it, and he's like, "Who's Tottenham?" I was like, "What a guy! I love him. Huge fan of Amanda Broja. What a guy." But I'm gonna say, you know, I'm gonna back a little bit something crazy because Salzburg maybe was a bit too early for a proper manager bounce. I'm gonna predict manager bounce. I'm gonna say 4-1 because I still don't see us keeping a clean sheet, Kepa in goal, us not being used to a back four, blah blah blah. So I still don't see a clean sheet. But I'm going to say 4-1. Now, I'm probably wrong. But how nice would it be, Pice, if I was right and we just win 4-1 tomorrow? How nice would that be?
I would be very, 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 very happy.
Exactly. Aye. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, I've not really got much more to say because a lot of it is kind of up in the air because we've only had, like I said, for the 16th time now in the stream. I do apologize. But we just don't know enough about Graham Potter with this team yet. And also, quite frankly, we watched him for Brighton, but none of us watch Brighton every week. So even like we don't know that much. We'll need to see it. Like give him a few games. Now tomorrow will already be better. We'll know more for Milan next week. But it's going to be difficult. And I'm just really excited. I'm just really looking forward to it. I'm also just looking forward to the weekend of football. I mean, North London Derby at 12:30. Then the Chelsea play. On Sunday, it's Manchester Derby. Like it's all kicking off. Singapore GP as well. It's a great time. But especially after all this nightmare, no F1, international break, I've had a right stinker. But ladies and gentlemen, quick shout out, by the way, before we finish this off, please do check out Pice's website, to which the link is down in the description, chelseafc365.com. Check out his Twitter as well. Check out Bertram too. He doesn't use his Twitter much, but again, big shout out for sending the quiz along, especially his PowerPoint with the little slides and everything, all color coordinated. Like, we were huge fans, Bertram. If you ever watch this when it's later, because it was unavailable now, so I assume you can't watch it now. But if you watch this later, big up. We love you. But yeah, Pice, any kind of last words ahead of tomorrow? Because yeah, I'm just eager to get going, even though I'm not playing myself, am I? But I'm just eager to get going.
Yeah, I wish it was on TV in England. So have fun, you guys that are around the world that get to watch every single fucking 3 p.m. game like we don't. But yeah, stream, eager to get going, as you said. Hopefully we win. Hopefully we score some good goals. But I don't really care if it comes off someone's, arse tomorrow, if I'm honest. We need a win. We need a win.
Exactly.
Get some momentum going.
Absolutely, we need a win. You know, in this little dream world that's going on in my head, I'm like, imagine between now and the World Cup starting or the season ending or pausing for the World Cup, how many games do we have? I think 13 games. Like 9 of them in October, and then I think a couple more at the beginning of November before we stop for the World Cup. So I think 13 games we have to go. I could be wrong, but something around that. Just imagine we win all 13 of those games.
Winning the league if we do that.
Oh, well, not all 13 of those are league games, mind you, with Champions League.
I know, but if we went on a run like that, I just feel like we'd probably win the league or be up there at least. I mean, how many points would that be?
Up there for sure, yeah. It would certainly put us in a much more comfortable position for top 4, that's for sure.
We just need to do what Arsenal have been doing, man. Like play some good football, win some games. It's not hard, but it is hard for Chelsea.
No, it's not
of course.
hard.
It is for Chelsea though. We're not, it is for Chelsea.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do apologize if you can hear a helicopter in the background. Like I've said many times before, I live across the hospital, so sometimes helicopters land and bring injured and hurt people. So hope they're well. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Now, like I said, YouTube is just being weird again today as well. Like the numbers are not what they should be, quite frankly. But YouTube is just being weird. So again, I appreciate you if you're here regardless. Not sure how you ended up here, whether it's the sub box or your recommendations. But let me say, a lot of you obviously watch my channel without being subscribed because a lot of people use just a recommendation feature of YouTube because that's usually very good. But sometimes they just do weird things. And then to avoid you missing content in the future when potentially you don't happen to get it recommended just because YouTube's being weird, make sure you subscribe and then check your sub boxes, and then you'll always see when we are live. So please do subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. Smash the like button as well on your way out. Only 100 people now here, but if we can get to, how many likes do we have? Let me see. We have 62 likes, to be fair. So if we can get to 75 on the way out, ladies and gentlemen, please do smash the like button. I'd very much appreciate it. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's hope we can get done tomorrow. And we'll see you next time.